Tonight, an emotional interview with the father of Lauren Johansson.
They had him in their custody and they let him go instead of putting him in jail. Could have saved my daughter's life. Our family just wants to see justice for our daughter, but also justice for women in this country.
All right, let me ask y'all something real quick. How many of you are actually still with your high school sweetheart? Yeah, not a lot of hands going up, huh? And honestly, I get it. If I had to marry the person I dated in high school back in Mississippi, whew, I'd either be divorced by now or doing life in Tennessee State Prison for aggravated eye-rolling. The truth is, less than 1% of high school couples actually make it all the way to marriage without ending in divorce, which means 99% of us dodged a bullet or maybe lost out on a soulmate, depending on how you see it. But here's the thing. Every once in a while, you do meet a couple who sticks it out for years, and usually that sounds like a sweet love story. But in this case, in Ocean Springs, Mississippi, and later in Nashville, Tennessee, that so-called love story took one of the darkest turns you could imagine. Today, we're talking about 22-year-old Lauren Johansson, a nursing student, an animal rescuer, and someone with her whole future ahead of her, whose high school sweetheart didn't become her happily ever after, but instead her worst nightmare. Lauren Johansson's story begins in Ocean Springs, Mississippi, where she was born on October 30th, 2001, to her parents Lance and Tamila. From the start, she was a bright and driven young woman. She graduated from Van Cleve High School and then headed off to the University of Southern Mississippi to study nursing. Her goal was to become a registered nurse and eventually a nurse practitioner. She wasn't just chasing grades either, though she had plenty of those. Lauren made the dean's list. She was a member of the National Honor Society and somehow still found the time to work as an Ulta beauty representative. Lauren had many sides to her. She loved makeup and was skilled at it, creating looks with bold eyeliner, perfect lashes, and a mix of shadows that made her stand out. But she was just as comfortable outdoors, riding horses, spending time at the beach, or throwing herself into rescue work for injured animals. She often volunteered at shelters, cared for her own pets, a dog named Bentley Joe, a cat named Marley, and even a horse named Coco. And people close to her said she took her animals everywhere she could. Nursing, rescuing animals, supporting her siblings, it all painted a picture of someone who lived with compassion at the center of everything she did. Her younger siblings meant the world to her. 16-year-old Kyler and 14-year-old twins, Christian and Caitlin, weren't just her siblings. They were like her children in many ways. Lauren had stepped up to help care for them when they were born premature with health challenges. Her family remembers her as loving, protective, and endlessly giving. Anyone who met her, they said, instantly loved her. She had the kind of presence that lifted the room and made you feel seen. But behind this bright life was a darker relationship. Lauren had been on and off for years with a young man named Bryson Rivers. They'd met in high school. He was the football star. On the outside, it looked like the classic high school sweetheart story. On the inside, their relationship was rocky. Bryson had a temper and was prone to aggressive outbursts. By the time she was ready for college, Lauren tried to break away. Her family said Bryson couldn't let go. He followed her, blew up her phone with constant messages, and even forced himself into her space, breaking into her apartment at times and starting fights with friends or anyone she showed interest in. And yet, in December of 2023, Lauren decided to give him one more chance. That's how it often goes with young love. You tell yourself people can change, that history means something, that maybe this time will be different. That month, she went with him to Nashville, Tennessee. On December 11th, they planned a casual day together, playing top golf and checking out a museum. But the day turned violent fast. A According to police reports, Bryson accused Lauren of being involved with a bartender. He flew into a rage. He ripped her phone from her so she couldn't call for help, drove her out to a parking lot and pulled out a weapon. He beat her with it. He yanked out clumps of her hair. He held her trapped in the vehicle for nearly an hour. The only reason this ended was because his mother happened to overhear screaming on the other end of a phone call with her son. She called police and gave them their location. When officers arrived, they found Lauren in a state no one should ever be in. She was traumatized, dressed only in her bra and underwear, pounding on the window for help, begging for her father. The officers later said she had been beaten severely. Photos from that night, though not shown here, make it clear just how bad it was. Inside the car, they found the weapon, splatters of blood, and Bryson himself, who was arrested immediately for aggravated assault. His bond was set at $250,000. When Bryson's preliminary hearing came up, Lauren's father, Lance, walked into that courtroom ready to speak. Lance wasn't just any dad. He was a respected orthopedic surgeon in Mississippi, well known in the community. And when he took the stand, the weight of his words was heavy. He told the judge that his daughter had been hit and injured over 100 times. 100. He said Lauren feared for her life if Bryson was ever released. Imagine being a father, a man who saves people's bones and joints for a living, standing there knowing your own daughter was beaten to that extent. For a while, it seemed like Bryson was where he needed to be. He sat in jail for 4 months, but then his lawyers filed a motion in March of 2024, asking the judge to cut down his bond. The judge admitted right there in court that there was a strong chance Bryson would be convicted because of the police body cam footage and the audio recording. The evidence was that clear. Yet even after saying that, she decided to lower his bond to $150,000. Her reason was that Bryson had no criminal record. But here's the twist. Reports show Bryson had been arrested before. Back in January 2021, he was allegedly picked up for a DUI. Then in October 2022, he was arrested for auto burglary. And again in December 2022 for possession and trafficking of a controlled substance. Still, none of those cases led to actual convictions, so the ADA's office said they weren't flagged as official criminal history. On paper, he looked clean. When the judge lowered his bond, she set conditions. Bryson could not leave Davidson County in Tennessee. He had to wear a GPS ankle monitor. And there was a very specific rule. He could not be released from jail after 4 p.m. That cutoff mattered because the GPS monitoring company closed at 4. If he got out later than that, he couldn't be fitted right away, and the system wouldn't track him properly. But rules on paper don't mean much if people bend them. Bryson's family came forward with the $150,000, and he walked free on June 24th at 4:05 p.m. Just 5 minutes past the deadline the judge had set. Because of that, his bail bondsmen took him to a different monitoring company. This is where things went wrong. That company didn't have Bryson's paperwork yet. They didn't know the details of his bond order, so instead of checking, they just took Bryson's word for it when he said he was allowed to go back to Mississippi. 4 days later, on June 28th, the truth caught up. The second monitoring company finally received his bond paperwork and realized he wasn't supposed to leave Tennessee at all. They immediately ordered Bryson to return to Nashville that same day. Meanwhile, his probation officer checked in with the first monitoring company, who admitted Bryson had never reported to them. That was a straight violation of his bond conditions. The DA's office flagged it and called Lance, leaving a voicemail that must have sent chills through him. The message said Bryson had been released, had skipped reporting for his ankle monitor, and had not been heard from since. They wanted to make sure Lauren was safe. By the very next day, June 29th, Bryson was back in Nashville and fitted with a new GPS ankle monitor. For a moment, it looked like the system had finally caught up with him. But even then, the problems didn't stop. On June 30th, just after 10 at night, Bryson's ankle monitor battery dropped to 6%. The monitoring company called him and told him to charge it, and he did. But the very next day, he phoned in claiming he couldn't make it to court because he didn't have a ride. That same day would turn out to be the most crucial of them all. Lance finally listened to the voicemail from the Nashville DA's office and realized Bryson had walked out of jail, skipped the monitoring company, and gone silent. He knew exactly what that could mean, and his panic set in. The next day, July 2nd, the monitoring company reported that Bryson's ankle monitor battery was low, and he was ignoring their messages. That is when they saw his location pinging in Mississippi instead of Nashville. The battery died, they lost him completely, and a warrant went out. By that point, it was already too late. 9 days after Bryson's release on July 2nd at 4:01 a.m., Lance's phone lit up with a Life 360 alert. Lauren's icon vanished. She was disconnected from the app he and his wife used to keep tabs on all their kids. Caitlin, who had spent the night at Lauren's house, woke up to a front door standing open, Lauren's pets wandering in the yard, and the home security camera yanked off its mount and tossed into a bush. Lance called and Caitlin checked every room. Lauren was gone. Her animals, the ones she treated like her babies, were outside and confused. The whole scene screamed wrong. Lance filed a missing person report immediately because his gut told him something terrible had already happened. He spent that day pushing for anything that could find her. He remembered how, back in Nashville, when police found her after the December assault, she was pounding on the window and screaming for her father. Now the same fear rushed back. He could not find Lauren. He could not find Bryson. He kept insisting there had to be a way to get a location. He begged anyone who would listen to pull GPS. There was a man wearing an ankle monitor. There was a woman with a phone. There was a man with a phone. There was a Chevy with OnStar. Nobody could give him coordinates. He kept asking and would not stop until someone finally triggered the OnStar search on Lauren's car. The signal led investigators to a cemetery. They arrived with Lance and saw Bryson bolt from the vehicle and sprint into the woods. When they reached Lauren's car, they found her in the back seat, wrapped in trash bags and sheets. Lance was there for all of it. He had pressed hard for the OnStar trace, and it brought them straight to her. He later said he helped the coroner lift his daughter's body out of the car. He described what he saw. Her face was smashed in. Her head injuries were devastating. Because of how her body was found, the official cause of death had not been released at that time. A 6-hour manhunt followed. Around 11:30 p.m., officers realized Bryson still had his phone, so they posed as a friend and texted him. He took the bait, came out of the trees, and they arrested him. He was charged with murder and booked on a $1 million bond. In the days after, Lance spoke about the loop all parents know too well. The what-ifs that never stop. What if he had pushed even harder? What if she had chosen a different school? What if the timing had been different? What if he had not bought those shoes or stopped at that drive-thru? He answered the question people always ask in cases like this. Why did she go back? He said he is an orthopedic surgeon, not a psychiatrist. But this part is not complicated. He believed Bryson was a psychopath. Look at the traits, and it fits. He warned Lauren again and again to stay away. People like that manipulate. They twist blame until the person they are abusing feels like nothing happened. Lance had begged the judge not to release Bryson. He told the court that if Bryson got out, he would kill his daughter. He remains stunned that a Tennessee judge reduced the bond even with recordings of a woman screaming for her life and body camera video that showed what police saw, including blood and signs she had nearly been suffocated. He said it still was not enough to keep Bryson in jail. He also explained that he and his wife never used physical punishment with their children. They never spanked them. and he meant Lauren specifically. He raised a daughter in a home without violence, and she was taken by it anyway. Lauren had grown up in a home where she never even got a spanking. Her parents didn't believe in that. They raised their kids without hitting, without punishment like that. Lance said flat out they never spanked their children. They never laid a hand on them. And to see his daughter end up a victim of the kind of brutality she faced left him and his wife completely shattered. His wife, he said, was at home crying, because how does a girl raised in a safe, loving home fall into the hands of a man who beat her to death? And then there is the judge. Lance had begged her not to let Bryson out. He warned her what was going to happen. He told her if Bryson got out, he would kill Lauren. And she still reduced his bond. Now she has refused to say a single word publicly. No comment. Reporters pressed her office. Her assistant said no comment. The office itself issued no comment. Not even a line of sympathy. Not even the empty language of, "Our hearts go out to the family." Nothing. Just silence. And what makes it worse is that the case wasn't weak. They had body camera footage. They had recordings of Lauren screaming for her life. They knew what kind of man Bryson was. They had to have known a conviction was coming. So why cut him loose? Why reduce the bond of someone they already had evidence against? Lance says it makes no sense. He and his family told them over and over again what kind of man Bryson was. They told them he was dangerous. They told them this was how it was going to end. And still, the system opened the door and let him out. To Lance, it feels like the justice system in Nashville failed Lauren completely. It failed their family. The family later created a GoFundMe to help with costs, and Lance said he hoped people would at least understand that he did everything in his power to protect her. He begged the judge. He pushed investigators until they finally tracked the OnStar on her car. He was right there when they found her body. He even carried her out. This was her high school sweetheart, and now she was gone. The day after a grand jury officially indicts Bryson Rivers for the killing of his 22-year-old ex-girlfriend, Lauren Johansson, he stands in court and pleads not guilty. Not guilty to capital murder. Not guilty to stealing a car. Not guilty to tampering with evidence. Every one of those charges tied directly to Lauren's death. Investigators later reveal something else. Even though Lauren's body is found in Harrison County, they believe she was murdered in Forest County. Because of that, Harrison County District Attorney W. Crosby Parker decides the case has to be moved. It is transferred over to Forest County. Now it is Thursday morning in downtown Hattiesburg. Rivers is back in front of a judge. His bond has already been denied the day before. He pleads not guilty again, this time just feet away from Lauren's father. Lance Johansson listens to the man accused of murdering his daughter and says what he wants is simple. Forest County District Attorney Lynn Carter should seek the death penalty. If any case should seek the death penalty, this is it, Lance tells WLOX after court. He says the evidence is enough for Rivers to be executed this very week, but admits the system has rules and laws, and they have to play out. Lance also says he is not stopping there. He wants new legislation. He calls it Lauren's Law. His idea is that anyone charged with violent domestic crimes should never be given bond until trial. He says people like that do not need to be released back into society. A GoFundMe is also set up in Lauren's name to raise awareness and support the family. Meanwhile, a trial date is scheduled, June 25th, 2025. That is when Rivers will stand trial for her murder. The family also takes a different kind of action. They file a lawsuit against the Tennessee bond companies that helped put Rivers back on the street. They say those companies ignored red flags as he violated the terms of his release. They accuse them of looking the other way while Rivers allegedly hunted Lauren down and killed her. Lance describes what it was like to see his daughter's body. He calls her the kindest woman in the world. And yet, he says, she was mutilated and thrown away like trash. He says it was the most overwhelming thing he had ever seen in his life. Then he asks the question that never leaves his mind. Why would anyone in their right mind let this man out? He does not stop there. He calls out the court directly. He says they basically unleashed an animal. He compares it to letting a tiger out of a cage and dropping meat in front of it. The result is inevitable. Rivers is now facing a murder charge and being held on a new bond of $1 million. But that is only after what already happened. His original bond started at $251,000. That amount was lowered to $150,000. It is that lower number that ends up getting posted by two Nashville bond companies, Brooks Bonding and On Time Bonding. Those two companies are named in the family's lawsuit. But the lawsuit does not stop there. The Johansson family also sues a private monitoring firm, and they sue two more companies that provided collateral for Rivers' bond. Everyone who played a role in setting him free is named. This isn't just another headline. This is a father burying his daughter. This is a family trying to pick up pieces that can never be put back together. The only thing they've asked for is that Lauren's story be heard, that people know what happened to her, and that it never happens to another woman again. So if you're watching this, share it. Share it so her name isn't forgotten. Share it because silence is how stories like this die. Every like, every share pushes Lauren's story further, and maybe that's how we make sure the system never makes the same mistake twice.